Welcome, everybody, to Alternatives to ChatGPT for accounting professionals and bookkeepers. This session has been made in collaboration with the Successful Bookkeepers Virtual Summit, so I hope you're enjoying the conference so far. Let's go over the table of contents. I'll introduce myself briefly, and then I'll jump right into why I still think ChatGPT is king, and I'll give you some tools so you can use to reference now or in the future to compare ChatGPT with all the other major alternatives. Just like the king of spreadsheets, Microsoft Excel, has alternatives like Google Sheets, and the king of bookkeeping, QuickBooks, has alternatives like Xero, Soho Books, FreshBooks, that sort of thing. I think it is valuable, and you would probably you can go back to your career and kind of think through this. It's really valuable to know what the alternatives are, how to work them, and how they're different. So that's kind of what I wanted to display here. I know there are other sessions during the summit that focus on that ChatGPT portion, and I encourage you to also go back and watch those because there's tons of real valuable stuff, especially on the prompt engineering portion. But what I wanted to do is kind of deep dive into three major alternatives. And those three are going to be Anthropic Claude, it's going to be Perplexity Pro, and Google Gemini for Business. So I'm going to go over those three briefly, right? Because this session is so long. So you can kind of later on, as you watch other ChatGPT sessions, you can kind of compare and contrast how they're different, and in many ways, how they're very similar. So about myself, I'm a CPA based out of Florida. I've had my own bookkeeping business and also a tax preparation business since 2009. I'm an advanced certified QuickBooks Pro advisor, which is the highest certification you can get in the QuickBooks world. I was also named QSP Partner of the Year last year because I'm a reseller of QuickBooks products. I'm a host on a podcast called the Unofficial QuickBooks Accountants Podcast. There's live links in the slides to any of these things if you want to access those. I also have a YouTube channel, mostly about QuickBooks stuff, and I'm the founder of Right Tool for QuickBooks. The link is going to be right there on the slides. And finally, I'm the host of multiple accounting conferences and training events under the brand Reframe. We're calling it Reframe Accounting Events, so you can check that out as well. In the slides that you see on the screen, there's my email. If anything I explained wasn't clear enough, or you want to maybe send me a question or even a compliment, go ahead and send that to me via email, and I will do my best to answer as quickly as possible. Also, in the slides, you're going to see references to a couple of videos that are already posted in my YouTube channel. Things like ChatGPT basics, ChatGPT advanced features, comparing ChatGPT with Claude, specifically within the context of accounting, are things that I recorded over the summer. So you want to check those out. And of course, when I do updates, subscribe to the YouTube channel and you will see the latest of those videos. Those videos can add a lot of context. That's another 3 hours, but it can add a lot of context to then you can go back and maybe watch the recording of this and go, oh, okay, I get it. I get how he was sort of scaling and building up to this session. Now, let me start with why ChatGPT is king. So I'll start with just setting up the premise that when I think of doing something with AI, my go-to is ChatGPT. However, I subscribe to two or three more because almost always I find myself not just doing the work in ChatGPT, but if it's not satisfactory, or maybe I want to get, let's call it a second opinion, I will use Claude or Google Gemini, in some cases Llama as well, which is the Facebook version of it, to kind of see if the other AIs have a different point of view per se. Very generally, they don't. What I find is the different AI chatbots have different areas they specialize on, and I'll quickly discuss that in a slide in the future where I talk about all the other things that I've played with in the past. But why ChatGPT is king is because there is an 100% free version where you don't even need to create an account. So it has the lowest barrier of entry that you can think of. Of course, the Pro version, which is $20 a month, is a lot more powerful. And honestly, it's kind of incredible value for what it costs to operate. Like OpenAI reportedly costs $8 billion a year to operate. Okay, so to run OpenAI, to run ChatGPT, and we have the power of those $8 billion a year of investments in a $20 a month product. It's just kind of incredible the times that we're living in. Also, ChatGPT was the first major LLM, that means large language model or AI chatbot, to really take the world by storm. ChatGPT has almost become like a verb, like ChatGPT, check ChatGPT, that sort of thing. Kind of like how Google did it 25 years ago or whenever Google came out. So ChatGPT has become synonymous with artificial intelligence. Anytime that somebody says, hey, I'm going to do something with artificial intelligence, the first thing you think of is ChatGPT. Or when somebody says ChatGPT, the first thing you think of is artificial intelligence. But honestly, there's a whole bunch of, like, the world of AI, it's actually pretty deep. And ChatGPT is a small sliver of it. But ChatGPT is the retail version of artificial intelligence. It's the tangible, democratic for the people version of ChatGPT, and it's the world's sort of entryway into that. So obviously, there's no doubt in my mind that if you have software that is that powerful, that cheap, especially with even a free version available, you're going to have tons of users. There's over 100 million active users. Now, fun fact, it's backed by Microsoft. Microsoft actually has a 49% investment in OpenAI with their initial $10 billion investment. So you're going to have some of influence from Microsoft, and also in reverse too, OpenAI influences Microsoft as well, because Microsoft is also developing their own system of AI called Copilot, which mostly is powered by OpenAI's ChatGPT anyway. Now, the last reported revenue I saw was $3.4 billion in annualized revenue, so obviously no chump change. The estimated valuation of OpenAI is 100 billion. So it's incredible that this company seemingly came out of nowhere and is one of the most valuable companies in the world. Yes, there are trillion-dollar companies out there, and will OpenAI ever become that? Who knows? But so quickly into it, we're already dealing with a $100 billion valuation company potentially. Now, the API really is the most powerful piece of OpenAI. This is basically what OpenAI sells to other companies as their gateway into artificial intelligence. So essentially, when other businesses, even when other accounting software says powered by AI or XYZ AI features, whatever, most of the time they're using an API and they're using somebody else's AI engine. And most of the time that somebody else's AI engine is OpenAI's. So a lot of the stuff that the other software companies do in terms of AI are things that you could have done in ChatGPT in the first place. So I find that to be interesting. A full set of features of the most current model includes web search, obviously chat, reading images or reading files and interpreting them, creating new images, analyzing spreadsheets, creating graphs, listening to audio and even transcribing it, answering back with audio, like full audio only bidirectional conversations with ChatGPT, and video creation is coming very soon. So this is why ChatGPT is king. Now, I built a resource. It's basically a spreadsheet, and I'm the one that tests a lot of these things. And I go into this spreadsheet and add, a y and an n, right? Yes or no, as I discover that these things do more things or do less things. So in this spreadsheet, I have ChatGPT, Claude, Grok, which is formerly known as Twitter. This is Elon Musk company, XAI, AI's platform. There's Google Gemini, Facebook Meta, Microsoft Copilot, Perplexity Pro, Poe, CPA Pilot, Spark, and ChatGPT, which Tax GPT, which I'll talk about briefly. These are like accounting specialized apps. So essentially, this is what I'm doing. I'm just making sure that I go back into the spreadsheet and I kind of like compare. This is from my own reference, from my firm, from my clients, and obviously for the whole community, to kind of like go back and check how these different engines compare. So I will post, or I posted a link in the slides for that, so you can go back and look at the spreadsheet. That's going to become a public document, and I'll go back and update this every month or so. So before we jump into specifically the alternatives that I want to showcase, I want to talk about how I see the whole ecosystem of AI apps that are out there. So there's probably more than these three, but the three that I've seen, the ones that kind of like come up in the surface in searches and things I've actually tested, are going to be three that are accounting specific. Okay. And to the best of my knowledge, all three actually use OpenAI's API. So there's technically not a alternative to ChatGPT because it's the same engine that ChatGPT will use, but they're built for specifically for accounting professionals. So you have Spark by Writeworks, which is kind of a combination between a practice management bot, something to help you run your practice better, and also tax research. So if you want to looking for AI that only just kind of looks at the world through that lens, you want to check out Spark by Writeworks. Now, there's two that are focused on tax, U.S. tax and tax only, which is CPA Pilot and TaxGPT. I think both of them were discussing Canadian tax as well, but I'm not 100% sure. Don't quote me on that. But I've only tested it with obviously U.S. tax stuff, and they're currently around that range of $600 to $1,200 a year. So they're pretty much hard competitors. So CPA Pilot and TaxGPT are sort of focused on tax, where Spark is kind of doing a little bit of both. Now, the non-tax competitor, I mean the non-accounting competitors to ChatGPT, the ones that don't use the OpenAI engine, or they could use the OpenAI engine and other engines, to clarify, are going to be Perplexity Pro, U.com, Po.com. Actually, those three are multi-engine models, and I'll explain that really quick when I go into Perplexity and kind of show you that. And then you have the ones that sort of have their own models, which is going to be Anthropic Claude, Google Gemini, Microsoft Copilot, which actually um, it's now kind of called Deep Search by Bing, whenever you use it on the search and chat. And Microsoft Copilot essentially is going to be compatible across your entire suite of Microsoft Office products, and it's going to search within Microsoft Office documents like spreadsheets, PowerPoints, and kind of interact with you in that world. I haven't personally tested that yet, but I've tested the Google Gemini version of this because our practice is mostly using Google Workspaces like Gmail and G Suites and that sort of thing. So Google Gemini and Microsoft Copilot will be competitors in that AI plus productivity software space. Whereas Anthropic Claude, Perplexity, U, and Po are more chatbot and search-based type of chats. And then you have the wild card here, which is Meta AI. And Meta AI is built into Facebook, in your Facebook app. It's built into your WhatsApp app. I'm not sure if it's built into Instagram, but it's built into the ecosystem of Facebook applications that you use. And the interesting thing about Meta is that it's free. They actually have an open source version that you can download and run in your own computer. We don't have a chance to go over that, but it's called Llama. You can actually download the whole file. And if you have the right software, you can literally run a chatbot in your computer locally without having to go online, without potentially exposing any of the data that you're putting in there. So that's really interesting. And they were kind of leading the way with the whole concept of open source. And there's also obviously the web version of it, and the link is on the slides, which you can try. Try testing as well. There's also other alternatives to ChatGPT that are worth mentioning. They're a little bit different, as I mentioned before. There's one called Grok, which is super fast, and it's really just meant to showcase the prowess of their chips. So Grok is actually a chip manufacturer. This is Grok with a Q, chip manufacturer. And if you go to grok.com with a Q, you'll be able to kind of test how quick it is. And it is its own model, but the purpose of it is, for them to essentially sell the power of their computing power. There's also Grok with a K, which is XAI's model, which you had to subscribe to like Twitter Plus or whatever, to X, and then you get access to the model. It's kind of confusing in terms of what exactly is Elon Musk's play in the AI world, but that's there out there for you to look at. There's also Hugging Chat, which is a part of Hugging Face, which is an entire ecosystem of like open source uh, um, repositories and places where mostly programmers and software developers kind of hang out, but they have their own chat also, and you can use multiple uh, open source models in there, so it's really interesting. And there's one that's really cool. It's called PI. It's a personal coach, and it's more for like, you know, personal wellness and health, and it's just for somebody to chat to, basically a virtual friend kind of thing. And also one that's really worth mentioning is called Chatbot Arena, and I'm actually going to go to the website of Chatbot Arena. So what's really neat about Chatbot Arena, and this is all useful to compare models, is what you could do is you can click on where it says Arena side by side there in the top, and then you can pick the models that you want to compare against each other. So let's say I want to compare, the latest ChatGPT model versus, let's say, let's go down and look at what I can compare this with. And I'll compare it with, we'll do, let's do, I'm going to select here, Grok 2. Okay, so Grok 2, this one here on the right hand side, this is the model that XAI, Elon Musk company, has. And obviously this is ChatGPT. So you can enter a particular question, whatever it is. You can say like, my client spends a lot of money in the movie theaters. Okay, my client spends a lot of money on the movie theaters. Um, they have a marketing company. I am their accountant, and I do not know how to categorize that in the books/tax return. Okay, again, I'm asking a weird question, very natural, no context. I'm just saying my client spends a lot of money in the movie theaters. They have a marketing company. I'm their accountant. I don't know how to categorize that in the tax return. Press enter, and whatever prompt you give it, you actually get side by side the answers that ChatGPT would give you here on the left hand side, and then the answer that Grok would give you on the right hand side. So, and you kind of see it in real time. You can compare the speed. You can see which one obviously works faster than the other one. And then you can actually take the two specific answers and just go through it. Obviously, look, they're similar but not the same. Like for example, ChatGPT starts with entertainment expenses, and then Grok does the same. And then, for example, Grok talks about business development and client entertainment. And then on the left-hand side, you see that, but maybe like towards number 4, but it uses different text. You see that this is suggesting potentially marketing research on the right-hand side, and there's no marketing research on the left-hand side. So again, it's pretty interesting. There's some example journal entries here on how to put that. There's no examples of journal entries on the right-hand side, but there's explanation about tax treatment. So again, something for you to consider. Look, ChatGPT tells you to consult a tax professional. Grok does not, and you can also contribute to this and say, look, this is better or this is better. And then once you contribute to this, essentially they have also another website right here, the Leaderboard, where they take people going in there and comparing the different models, and they look at all the different scores. So you can kind of get an idea for how other people are rating all of these models. And here's Gemini, this is Google's, and here's Grok 2. And then every single week, I guarantee you'll come in here and you're going to see different ratings. And there's also sub ratings. So if it's in about math specifically, then you can see the ratings of all the models just on math. And you can see people voted Claude to be better at math, or you can change this here maybe to different language, or maybe with coding, and then it'll go back and kind of compare all the models, all the ratings, and see which one it's top rated when it comes to coding. Look, ChatGPT, it seems to be better for coding. Then you also get to know their knowledge cutoff. Okay, all these different models have different knowledge cutoffs. Most of these already are at late 2023, early 2024. It's no longer like the early models, which is 2021 was sort of like the latest type of information that they had. So anyway, so that's kind of like how to compare and how to understand what the entire ecosystem of apps looks like. So let's talk about the apps that we're going to compare and go deep into. Let's start with Google Gemini for Business. All right, so Google Gemini for Business. So as of the time that we are going live with this session, these are the features that are worth knowing or noting that exist within the entire ecosystem of Google Workspace within using the AI model. So obviously you have the chatbot, which we're going to showcase in a second, and you can upload files like a text file or doc file or PDF file or CSV file. You can also grab a file that's already in your Google Drive and load it into the chatbot. You have this thing called custom gems, which are basically custom chatbots. Some people call it agents. That agent term is actually a bit confusing to me, so I'm not going to use the term agent, but it's just you build your own um, custom chatbots. In Gmail, it can suggest replies on your emails. It can search across multiple emails, and it'll use more contextual search, that specific exact wording search. In Google Sheets, it can create tables for you, and you can ask for formula help. We'll actually showcase that really quick. In Google Docs, it can actually start writing based on another Google Drive document, or you can actually highlight parts of your document and say, can you rewrite this or can you rephrase this, which is really useful for writing documents. And then straight inside Google Drive, you can grab a long PDF that's already there, ask it to summarize it without having to go into Google Docs. You can grab multiple files and say, hey, can you compare these files? How are they different? That sort of thing. So Google Gemini is actually moving super quickly. Let's go into Google Gemini chatbot. So most of us, especially if you use ChatGPT, we're familiar with the chatbot element of this. So you click on new chat on the left-hand side. You can collapse or expand that left navigation menu. There's a settings button here at the bottom where you can enable additional extensions. Is actually a fairly new thing. You can switch to dark mode or go into light mode. And really that's all you can do in here. Now you can start by just chatting into it. So we can go back and maybe ask it the exact same question. Can I go back to that? Let me see if I can go back. No, I can't go back to that. But I'll go back and we'll ask it the same exact question we asked it before about the movie theater cost and just kind of see how this goes. So so I'll start with I am a CPA. My client has a marketing company. They go to the movie theater a lot, and I do not know how to categorize those expenses in the books and on the tax return. And I'm asking it a tricky question, right? Like if you're an accountant, if you know tax, you're like, you know what, going to the movies is not going to be a tax deductible thing. You shouldn't put that under the business. But these are like the type of things that are harder to answer. Like if somebody tells me, hey, if I go to Office Depot, if I buy office supplies on Amazon, can I deduct that? Well, that's a straightforward yes, absolutely. If it's for business, you can. These type of things might not be as straightforward, and that's why I ask those more like sort of esoteric questions to AI, because I want to know how it sort of thinks. So if we just click on submit and it's like a regular chatbot, just like ChatGPT, it'll start giving you some answers. And this is its version of the answers, right? So it starts with, for tax purposes, here's some background on, tax law changes that could have changed this. Here's for bookkeeping purposes what potentially could be. Okay, and it says here that this might not be tax deductible, but you still need to track them for record keeping. Here's some recommendations on detailed documentation. What's cool about Google Gemini, actually multiple things are cool, is I can grab a particular piece of text and just select that and then click on modify selected text. And then I could say, uh, give me 3 options for this. So instead of just being a single category that is suggesting, give me 3 options for this. And then I hit enter. And then essentially it goes and grabs, just within the text, what you want to change. And then I could say something like, um, let's see, US and Canadian version. Okay, and then I press enter, and basically, give me both, right? Just give me the tax implications for both. Okay, then here it goes. In Canada, the deductibility might vary depending on the specific circumstance. So again, and then I can go here, applicable laws, and say expand which law would apply. Okay, and again, I'm grabbing specific snippets within the chat and expanding and sort of blowing that up. And here's some additional expansion. I don't know enough about Canadian tax law to even verify that, but it's just kind of showing you the structure how you can do that. So there's a couple options here at the bottom. You can click on modify your response, and you can say, yeah, I want shorter, I want longer, I want simpler, I want more casual, I want more professional. I can share and export this, so I can really quick make export to Google Docs. I can draft in Gmail, which is really, really interesting. So if you use Gmail, you go open up Gmail right away, and there's already the draft. So imagine a world where a client is asking you a question over the phone. You're loading that question in the chat bot. You're making your modifications while you're talking. You press a button, and boom, you're already typing an email, a response to your client. So like those are the things that I find particularly fascinating about integrating not just the not just using a chatbot, but integrating it within your entire workflow. And then you can just copy the text and paste it somewhere else, or this really cool link here. And of course, only Google can do something like this, where you click Google it, and what it does is it'll do like sort of like a quick Google search, where then you can go in there and click here, and it'll take you straight into like just a shortcut into Google search, where maybe you can go back and verify these things. So just really, really neat. Just kind of like how that works. So that's Google Gemini in the chat format. Let's go into Google Sheets. Okay, so I open a new sheet, and on the top right of the screen, next to the little icon for your profile, you're gonna see a little icon that says Add Gemini. It looks like a little gem or like a little star. You click on that, and it opens that right navigation bar, and it'll start giving you suggestions or some of the things that you can do. So creating tables is probably one of the most common ones. So you click on more suggestions, and then it'll give you a couple more options. So I'm gonna put here and say create a table for bookkeeping via Google Sheets with date, payee, description, memo. Let's do account slash category, right? Category, amount, and balance. And I know you could do this fairly quickly by just putting it in the cells, but what's really cool is now all of a sudden you have sort of an assistant that can sort of read what you're saying and build that for you. And then here here it says, okay, this is what you want. You click on insert table, boom, done. Okay, let me start a new sheet. I'm gonna be a little bit less specific. I'm gonna clear this, and I'm just gonna say create a table for bookkeeping. Okay, so I was less specific. I didn't tell it all the columns that I wanted. I just said for bookkeeping. Again, this is the power of AI. Like it understands kind of what you mean, and it might be less perfect. It might have more columns that we want or less columns that we want. But here you go. And in this particular case, it even added some data for us to kind of take a look at. So that's really interesting as well. Okay, so it's just really cool. I just love how quickly you can do these things, and then you combine this with the power of and converting it into a table. Okay, and then it just becomes just a really pretty table. And depending on the formatting, you have like little icons up here, knowing the type of formatting. I can right click on account name and click here where it says drop down, and it could immediately make all these things drop down for me, so I could change them on the fly. So you combine AI for sort of building your first table, and then all the other really cool things that you see in there, and sort of the sky is the limit. And they also have some sort of built-in little AI tools in here, and you're going to see them with these little things called smart chips. And then in smart chips, you're going to see uh, the quick ways to format tables and do different type of formatting on these things. And they start combining them with AI, and they're going to be super powerful. So I love that. Okay, so let's move on. Let's go back into the presentation here. And as I mentioned, I think it'll be worth it for you to take a look at all of these different options that you have just with Google Gemini. I just wanted to give you a quick preview with Google Sheets because it feels like that's probably one of the most tangible things for bookkeepers and accounting professionals. Let's go to Anthropic Claude. I actually believe that Anthropic is actually the biggest competitor to ChatGPT, and there are situations where I find Claude more powerful. Now you can go back into the that comparison spreadsheet and kind of see the differences between ChatGPT and Claude that I laid out there, but I'll just tell you really quick. Where Claude beats ChatGPT is that the amount of documents you can upload to Claude, like the size of the documents you can upload to Claude, just seem to be bigger. So the context window for uploading like a big PDF document or a big spreadsheet in Claude is just bigger, period. The drawback that Claude has is Claude doesn't do a web search where ChatGPT does do a web search. So if the information is more recent than the information that's in Claude, then you're kind of stuck, or you're gonna have to feed it that context where ChatGPT could go out there and search the web. The other thing is ChatGPT cannot create images. Sorry, Claude cannot create images where ChatGPT can, and ChatGPT can deal with voice. You can talk to it and it transcribes that or back and forth, where Claude cannot do that. Still, I actually pay for Claude myself because, again, when it comes to uploading large documents, Claude just behaves better. So let's do an example of that. So let's say, for example, I have this report that I exported from QuickBooks, which is basically an expenses by vendor detail. It contains a whole bunch of transactions. There's 7 pages worth of transactions. And I'm going to basically going back into Claude, I'm going to drag and drop that file right into that. And I'm going to ask it to analyze or maybe spot some anomalies. I'm going to say spot some uh, normal activity or something like that. Okay, so I went in there, I uploaded a PDF file, 7 page PDF file. It contains a bunch of transactions. It's going to go ahead and the first thing it's going to do is it's going to just do the wording piece and go, okay, this is how we're thinking of this. So number one, unusual timing. There's expenses dated in the future. That's good call out there. It's a sample file that contains future transactions. That's abnormal because usually a report will show past expenses. That's pretty interesting. Then it goes inconsistent vendor naming. There seems to be a Cal Gas and Electric and a CU Electric, maybe thinking that this could be the same company, right? So again, it's using AI logic. There's a unusual payment method. So we have the same expense, the same vendor being used for different payment types. That's interesting. Then we have this supplier has one particular large amount, which is higher compared to other vendors, et cetera, et cetera. So this is what I really like about Claude is that you can grab really large pieces of documents and summarize them fairly quickly. We're going to go for a slightly bigger document. So I'm going to go back, start a new chat, and maybe I'll go into it and download their annual report, maybe their last 10K filing. So we'll download that as a PDF, and this is a 165 page report, tons of information, difficult to digest sort of thing. Let's drag that into Claude. So let me save it here into the desktop, and then we'll upload that document and we have it analyze that. Let's see if that document is maybe not too big and it can analyze that. But here it is. It's loading. It's uploading, and we'll give it a minute. Okay, seems like that will work. And then I'm going to say, what is happening to QuickBooks desktop. According, say according to the financials, right? So I just uploaded a 165K document from Intuit's annual filing. I asked one simple question and it's doing deep thinking and it's going to give me an answer briefly. Okay, here we go. Based on the financial statements and disclosures on the 2024 annual report, there's been a transition to a subscription model. Company notes actually talk about the transition. And here's a quote, right? Specifically on what's happening. There's actually revenue growth, which is interesting. They talk about the desktop ecosystem and they talk about all the products that kind of are part of the desktop ecosystem. Talks about the fact that it's technically still growing, even though they're kind of killing desktop. And then in summary, Intuit is transitioning desktop to subscription. It continues to grow. However, online appears to be the primary growth driver. So obviously stuff we already knew. Most of you probably already knew this, but you can grab this with any 10K of any company, any big document you want, throw that bad boy into Claude. You'll be able to do summaries fairly quickly. What I also like about Claude is you can start a project and the project itself could contain a greater piece of context. So for example, I created this one called IRS Instructions Research Project. And essentially what I do is I upload multiple documents to that. Let me open this other one, IRS Instructions Project, and I uploaded a whole bunch of IRS instructions. So instructions, 542 and 587 and 1040 or whatever. Like it just give you some context in case you're not in the United States. You go to irs.gov or something like that, and you search for 1040 instructions. You could also probably just Google that, and you grab the form instructions, download them. Okay, that's exactly, or this is the actual form, but this is the form. You can get the printed version of the instructions, and essentially you grab that, and then you upload. You click on Add Content, Upload from Device, and you upload multiple documents, and then this project only searches within the documents that you uploaded, especially when you give it custom instructions and you say, you will combine your general knowledge and the specific IRS instructions I provided. If your answer comes from within the documents, provide the page numbers for reference. If your answer comes from general knowledge, provide the code section or irs.gov specific reference. So then inside the project, which contains the context, then I can ask a question like that earlier question I had, maybe the same question I had earlier about the marketing company spending money in the movie theater. I'll go ahead and paste that. And then when Claude gives me the answer, it will combine Claude's general knowledge with the documents as well. And the cool thing is it'll go back and give you references for the documents. And here we go. So here's the information that's being provided. Anytime as I give it the instructions, something comes from general knowledge, it actually gives me the specific website that I can use to navigate. Okay. Here's some additional considerations. Then down here at the bottom gives me some of the answers. But what's really cool is it links the document, so I can go to that, open, and see the exact website where it's using as a reference. So that's actually, again, it's really important to give it some context. I can say anything in the docs I provided and page number. Okay, so I can maybe even press it a little bit more to that. I can say, hey, can you give me, go back into the documents and actually give me information on that. Okay, and then it's actually going to go do that. And then it says, look, based on the document, publication 587, the closest page is page 6, which discusses general business expenses. So again, that's something you can do with Claude called projects, and you can create multiple projects and then multiple chats inside of a project. So this was the movie theater question I asked for this project, but then 21 days ago, I asked something about boat expenses, and I go back and take a look at how it handled questions about buying a boat and can it be deductible for a business or not. And then it's within the project, within the context that I gave it. So and Claude can do a whole bunch of other things, but this is kind of the highlights. So I always use Claude as my second opinion to ChatGPT. And also what's really neat is I don't have to go into projects and select a project. I can go straight from a new chat and say, is a boat purchase tax deductible for my accounting firm? And I'll put, I will take my employees out after 4:15 so they can relax a bit. Okay, I can click here. It says use projects and select the particular project that I want to use for the context. Again, for the context, and then click on that, and then press enter, and then it goes straight into the chat using the project I created that contains the context and the documents, and then it will give me the specific answer. So I love Claude. I can't emphasize that enough. Okay, let's go to the last one, which is going to be Perplexity. And we're going to cover kind of what Perplexity is, and we'll end it with this model. Perplexity is really cool. The paid version has a pro sort of chat, it has different focus modes. There's a Chrome extension where you can access Perplexity from everywhere, and I can create curated pages, which is really, really neat. So let's go into Perplexity, and I'm going to ask it a question like this. My client needs alternatives to QuickBooks. They're growing super fast. I'm not giving it that much context. Here under Focus, you can actually choose how you want Perplexity to work this answer. So it can either go web, writing, academic, math, social, video. It can actually search videos, which is cool as well. So let's search this question, and you're going to notice what's going to happen is it's going to do research. It's going to look into multiple websites, multiple search queries. It actually will give you a list of everywhere that it did search queries. So you can see right there is all the search queries that it did. And then it'll go out there and then basically summarize all the search queries for you. So it's suggesting Zero, FreshBooks. Again, I'm not 100% in agreement to see if that's the type of solution I would choose for growing bigger than QuickBooks. But this is basically what it's doing, and it gives you just an idea of how it does that. Now you can obviously ask a follow up and press it, and maybe be more specific to say, hey, I'm looking for something that's more sort of mid market. It's a $50 million company or whatever. You can obviously use the follow up. The follow-up process for that, but this gives you a general idea of how it does it. Now I'm gonna stop this, and I'm gonna go into a new chat, and what I'm gonna show you something that's really cool. It's called library, and then when you click on library, you can actually create what's called a page, and a page can be shared to the public. So I'm gonna go into page, and then I'm gonna do the same thing. I'm gonna put mid market alternatives to QuickBooks for inventory heavy companies. Okay, and then I'm going to click on search, and it does a search, but it's no longer a chat. What it is it basically almost like builds a website for you on the fly. So it came out with I mean, it took a screenshot from some random website. Obviously, you may want to change that. But then it starts writing for you as if it was like a Wikipedia page. So as your business grows with QuickBooks, with inventory management, there's some options here for alternatives. There's some options like Xero, FreshBooks, and Soho Books, which again, I disagree with this. But then it goes straight into Acumatica, which is actually a good mid-market option that's out there. And here's the explanation of what Acumatica is. You can click on Add Media and then go find a link. I mean, a picture somewhere in the web. So I'll do that, and then it has Czar Money, which I've never heard of. Then it posts the Czar Money in there, and I can go and search for a picture in the web to bring in. Pretty cool. And then there's NetSuite, and then here we go. And then you can add more sections, and we can say, what can QuickBooks do now for inventory heavy clients? Okay, and something like that. And then I'll add the section of that, and it'll actually automatically build that section for you. So we started with one specific kind of idea of start with my alternatives, and then I added another section of what QuickBooks Enterprise can do with advanced inventory, add media again, and it brought up I guess a random screenshot from somebody's video, and then I'll give you here a couple of options here you can use and find those pictures from the web. And then here at the bottom under sources, you get to see where all the sources are. But what's really neat is once you're done writing this thing, you can click on the top right where it says publish, and then you can actually take this link, copy this link. I'm just going to open an incognito window and paste that link in there, and it'll go into a public page that says, that you curated the page. So it's got your information in there. And then it has all the stuff that's in there. And then no one can edit this, but they can ask follow-up questions. So they can say QB Enterprise versus Advanced, right? Again, let's do QBO Advanced, and then do a search on that, and then it will, from the context of the original sort of article or curated page, it will then, for the end user who's interacting with the page you created, it creates its own answers. And then that user can at that point, even share that or link the follow-up to that answer as well, which is only for that user to play with. So Perplexity is just like incredibly powerful. And the other thing that's worth kind of mentioning is when you go into the settings of Perplexity, you can actually choose what model you want to use. So right now, I have it for this model called Sonar Huge, which is actually an advanced Perplexity model based on Meta on Facebook's AI. But you can actually ask it to use Claude or ask it to use ChatGPT. So it's just kind of an example of Perplexity. It's just a very, very sort of creative attempt to create like the AI of AIs type of thing. And just I wanted to mention really quick, the Chrome extension is really cool. You can be in any page. I could be like, maybe I'm looking at an IRS thing, and then I come in here and go, who files a 1040 NR? So I guess just had a question on this. Like I was just looking at something and had a question on the spot. So I just opened this little window and I put, let's try that again, who files 1040 NR? And then click on that search, and it's sort of like mini Perplexity. So you don't have to go to another website, and essentially you get sort of the mini version of Perplexity with all the links in here. So it just kind of helps you satisfy that like quick search with AI type of thing. My email is on the screen, links to all the stuff that I do. Contact me if you have any questions. Otherwise, enjoy the rest of the virtual summit. Bye, everybody.